course, for those who are not chanting 16, for them maybe 2 or 4 or 8, maybe a vow. And some devotees take a vow to chant the Mahamantra with each breath. So that's a very good vow to take. So that's that. Deity devotee Nam Dham, living in a holy place. This is not different from living in a holy place. But when opportunity and the situation does arise, one should try to go to Vrindavan in the month of Kartik. One can go to New Vrindavan, but one should still try to go to the Bhauma. The Bhauma means Bhumi, earthly Vrindavan, located in Mathura. Very, very helpful. Hare Krishna. And Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam means the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, deity devotee Nam Dham Bhagavatam. Okay. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki Tadarajastamo Bhava Kamalobhadayasche Chetayeta Anavriddham Sutam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidyate Hridaya Granthi Chindanti Sarva Samshaya Shriyante Jasya Karmani Drishtva Evatmanishvare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Mukam karoti vachalam, Angulangayate girim, Yad kripatamaham Vande, Shri Guru Dina Taranam, Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram. So, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 45 to 52. The prayers of Queen Kunti have already been spoken. They are over. The purport of these next 7 verses, starting from 46, right, Hari? 45. So, Hari, what should I do? Should I summarize these prayers? Give me some framework.
So you can either summarize them, or you can take one at a time, or you can also choose one and just kind of elaborate on that as well. Or you can just summarize, if you want, since it's the last couple, you can just kind of give an overview of the chapter also.
Yeah, just the overview of last 8 verses. What we'll do is, for the sake of our audience, we'll read the English translation of the prayers, 45 to 52. Okay, and Hare Krishna, welcome. So 45 to 52, text 45, reading text 45, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, text 45. The prayers are over, and now there is this 8 verses focus on the lamentation of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that's the main thrust of these 8 verses, is lamentation of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Why is he lamenting? The war has happened. millions of people, precisely 640 million people died in 18 days. 640 million people died in 18 days, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is enthroned. So he's lamenting that just to put him on the throne, so many people had to die, so many women had to become widow, and so much bloodshed had to happen. And although this was Krishna's will, this was the inevitable, but Yudhishthira Maharaj is lamenting. So I'll just focus on that particular lamentation and what can be learned from that. So we'll read the 7-8 verses real quick, and then I'll just comment a little bit upon that. Text 45. Thus, accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthira, who implored him lovingly. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the same idea of the whole Damodarashtakam prayer, I'll read the purport 245. No one can make Lord Krishna stay at Hastinapur when he decided to start for Dwarka. But the simple request of King Yudhishthira that the Lord remain there for a few days was immediately effective. This signifies that the power of King Yudhishthira was loving affection, which the Lord could not deny. The Almighty God is thus conquered by loving service and nothing else. He's not conquered by pride. He's not conquered by boastfulness. He's not conquered by material haves. He's conquered by loving devotion of a devotee. Ajita Jita Taistrilokya. The Lord of the three words, who's unconquerable, becomes conquered. He becomes subservient to loving devotion. And that's the whole theme of Damodarashtakam. The entire theme is that the Lord which cannot be bound is bound. The Lord who's self-satisfied is crying for Yashoda's love. Crying for her breast milk. He's crying for her chastisement. He's afraid of Yashoda's stick. So Dhamma is actually a lesson in contradictions. It's a lesson in paradox. There are multiple paradoxes here. A Lord who's self-satisfied is pining for Yashoda's milk. The Lord who never gets angry, who's beyond the modes of material nature, is biting his lip. His eyes are red. He's breaking apart. He's throwing a stone. The Lord, who's the owner of everything, is a thief. And now he will be forever remembered as a thief in Vrindavan. The Lord, who cannot be caught by anybody, is being chased by Mother Yashoda, and she's catching him. The Lord, who's unbound, who's the universal form, is being tied by ropes. The Lord, who is totally free in whatever he wants to do, the ropes cannot be untied, that knot cannot be untied even by his friends. Why can't the rope be untied by his friends? Because the love of Mother Yashoda is greater than the love of his friends. Because that love is greater. His eternal associates, his friends, they're not ordinary souls. They also love him. But they cannot untie that knot, because that knot was tied by Mother Yashoda. Somebody has to have love greater than her to untie Krishna. You see? So Damodarashtakam is actually a lesson in paradoxes, lesson in opposites. Everything which we know the Lord to be he's not there at all. So this signifies that the power of Lord King Yudhishthira was loving affection which the Lord could not deny. So, and this is how, the whole process of bhakti works. When a devotee or an associate of the Lord prays to Krishna to give somebody bhakti, the Lord cannot deny. So this question comes, is the bhakti inherent in the jiva? Is it inherent in the jiva, or is it inherited? This question comes. And of course there is this Shastric statement that Krishna Bhakti is inheritant, and Shravana Kirtana Karilo Dai. It's simply awakened by the process of hearing and chanting, and it's an inherent thing. But there are statements in the Shastras which are equally powerful, that pure devotional service can only be attained by the mercy of a pure devotee. And that's where lies the importance of initiation or a guru. Now, people think that by taking initiation or guru, of course, there is a lot of desire to belong socially and culturally. That definitely is there, and there's nothing wrong about that. It's Prabhupada said, imitating a good thing is good. Then there may be a desire to worship the deity. By taking Diksha, there may be a desire to worship the deity, and that's also nice. There may also be so many other desires of having a connection, belonging to somebody. But the real purport of initiation is actually to come to the platform of Shuddhanam, of pure name. The main essence of initiation is to actually chant inoffensively. So if you look at the initiation ceremony, Prabhupada would talk about the 10 offenses. And there is a reason for that. The reason Prabhupada is talking about 10 offenses on an initiation lecture is that the main purpose of initiation is to chant without offense. And that can happen only by the mercy of a pure devotee. At some point in the soul's journey, it may take from the time of initiation several more births. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that the first time a jiva makes a contact with a pure devotee, he chants Nam Aparadh. When he makes the second contact, he chants Nam Abhas. And then the third time, he chants Shuddhanam. This 3 lifetimes is there in Bhagavatam, Bharat Maharaj, on the level of bhava. On the level of bhava. He also had to go through 3 times. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur very famously said that all of my disciples will go back to Godhead in at least 3 lifetimes. All of them. Some may go in 1, many may go in 2, but all of them would go in 3. And when Prabhupada was asked this question, that Prabhupada, would your disciples go back to Godhead? And Prabhupada said, at least they will go to heavenly planets. At least. That's like the fallback. Heaven is like for the most degraded. Heaven is for the most degraded.
Strong statement.
Heaven is for the most degraded. So what is the purpose of initiation? And Damodar Ashtakam also very beautifully, and very powerfully resolves this paradox. Is it God's grace or is it your own effort? This question the Christian church has been grappling for 2,000 years. And they follow Paul. They said there's nothing you can do. It's all grace. It's all mercy. That's pretty much the understanding in the church. There's nothing you can do. It's not by works, it's by faith. It's by grace, it's by belief. It's by calling that I have accepted Jesus as the Son of God, as my personal Savior. That's what delivers you. But Damodar Ashtakam really signifies and elaborates Veda's position on this. It is 2 fingers too short. It is always the effort, the parishram of the devotee and the grace of God. Both things are equally important. Damodar Ashtakam very clearly states that it was Mother Yashoda's effort and a loving devotion, and Krishna's yes, his grace, his mercy. He agreed. So God cannot be bound. He cannot be conquered by some mantras. So His grace has to be there, but to invoke His grace, to attract His grace, to attract His mercy, you have to make an effort. You have to be sincere. You have to be serious. Radhanath Swami says 3 things. When he gives initiation, he says, you have to be serious, sincere, and without any ulterior motive. And ultimately, He's infinite, and we are infinitesimal. There is no way an infinitesimal can approach infinite without His grace, without His mercy. So the church is not wrong, but it's only half the equation. The other half of the equation is to qualify one for that grace. And the relationship between guru and disciple is also a conduit or a transparent via medium for the pure name. The whole purpose of initiation, the whole purpose why Prabhupada would specifically give a lecture on 10 offenses was that a jiva has to come to the inoffensive name, the pure name. That's what Guru is meant to give you. That is the whole purpose of that exercise. So one has to really understand and meditate on the 10 offenses. What are the 10 offenses and how can I avoid them? And the first offense is to blaspheme the devotee. And devotee is not limited to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Anybody who's a devotee of the Lord should not be blasphemed. So that us implies to devotees in other religious tradition also. Or anybody who's a devotee. So very, very interesting idea about here in this first paragraph that the Lord actually was conquered by Yudhishthira Maharaj's loving affection. So I was speaking that bhakti really is there in the heart of the jiva, no doubt about that. And by hearing and chanting it is evoked. But to come to the point of pure devotional service, one needs the grace and the prayer of a pure devotee of the Lord. And that's the via media. That's the transparent via media. And if a pure devotee prays to Krishna that you give him bhakti, then slowly and surely Krishna will make the arrangement for that person's deliverance at some point or another. And you cannot cheat Guru, you cannot cheat him, you cannot cheat him. It's a very personal thing, The Guru knows your heart and Guru knows your sincerity. So Krishna is conquered here by the loving devotion of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Then Prabhupada is saying he is fully independent in all his dealings, but he voluntarily accepts obligation by the loving affection of his pure devotee. So Krishna accepts that obligation by the loving devotion of his pure devotees. And that's another important point, is that we should not hear from non-devotees. Not just Mayavadis or blasphemers. Sometimes we may find kirtan or lecture by a non-devotee which is very musically appealing. We may hear kirtan which is very musically appealing. In a nutshell, it does not evoke, it pleases our senses, it pleases our mind, but it doesn't evoke pure devotional service in our heart. But when we hear from pure agents, then it may not be so musically pleasing, but it does evoke pure devotion in our heart. It changes our consciousness and brings us closer to pure devotion. So Krishna becomes obligated by the loving affection of his pure devotees when his pure devotees, Hare Krishna, when the pure devotee prays, when the pure devotee gives the mercy, when a devotee who's sincere prays to Krishna, Krishna gives him bhakti, and Krishna gives him bhakti. So that was that. Now, in the last 7 verses, reading the translation, King Yudhishthira, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instruction by great sages headed by Vilasa and Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is recriminating himself. He's very harsh on himself at this point. And despite the statements of Vyasadeva or Krishna himself, he's not pacified. And in the next chapter, the glories of Bhishma Dev will be illustrated. That how Bhishma Dev was specifically empowered to pacify Yudhishthira. He was able to say things which were able to pacify Yudhishthira. Not Krishna, not Vyasadeva, not the historical evidence, but Bhishma was empowered. Next verse, text 47. King Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friend. Now this is interesting that Yudhishthira is son of Dharma. As you know, that Kunti had a blessing that she can invoke upon any demigod. So the first demigod she invokes is not Indra, not Vayu, not the Ashwini Kumaras. The first Devata she invokes is Dharma. She is invoking Dharma to be the first child. Why is that? Why is that Pandu and Kunti invokes Dharma to be their first child? Now, think about it. It's not wealth or power or material attributes they invoked.
Religious dharma means like religious duty, like this. So if you have that, then it can lead everybody else in the right path, right?
So the first, invoke God and His righteousness, and everything else will be added into it. Prabhupada said so many zeros, but without that one, what is the point? You can get everything in this world. It's already there. So many people are enjoying it. Animals also are enjoying it. They're enjoying all of that, things which we are aspiring for. What is the purpose of this money and all of this? It's only temporary and it only agitates. But the first thing they invoked was dharma. Then she had another opportunity. She never knew whether Pandu will ask for another one. And then she invokes Arjuna. And then she invokes Bhima. And then Pandu wants to keep going. And Kunti is the one who's saying, no, enough is enough. Your greed is taking over. And then Madhuri made one final request, I also don't have a child, if you can allow me. And she obviously doubled it, So she gets 2 for 1. She knew that she may not get another chance. She gets 2 for 1, one for free. Like this. 1 to buy, 1 for free. So here, Yudhishthira, the son of Dharma, is the first one born. King Yudhishthira said, "O my lord, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body which is meant for others has killed many, many phalanxes of men. This body which is meant for others has killed many, many phalanxes of men. I have killed many boys, brahmanas, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers." This is interesting, the sequence. It starts with Bala. Vedic culture, you are meant to give protection to children, women, cows, and brahmanas. So children first. Women and children first. So he says, I have killed many, not brahmanas first, boys first. I have killed many children. Protection of children, education of children, nurturing of children, this is dharma. Sometimes we think dharma is to be chanting Hare Krishna. That is dharma. But Vedas describe protection of children, women, elderly, and cows is dharma. In any environment, if these 4 are not protected and nurtured and nourished, it's useless. We have seen that. Our chanting is useless. What is the purpose of such chanting? So the first thing he says, I have killed many boys. I have killed children. Young boys, 16, 17 years old, they died in the battle. Another point, Vedic culture, if you read Prabhupada's purport to first words of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, one who dies on a battlefield and a Brahmana who's self-realized, they both go back to Godhead. Vedic culture glorified warfare, weapons, arms, Kshatriyas, Kshatriya dharma, ethics, justice. And one who died on a battlefield or one who is fully self-realized by chanting of mantras, both are qualified to enter the sun globe. That's what Prabhupada writes. First verse of Bhagavad Gita. So this leads to then contemplation on varnashram and one's duty. And there is equivalence between the two. There is equivalence between the two. So here he says, I have killed many boys. Then he says Brahmanas. Of course, they didn't kill cows or women. In a warfare, they would not kill animals. What to talk about civilians or women or anybody else? They would not even kill animals.
The leaders would actually be fighting also.
Yeah.
Not that they're back and they're actually fighting.
Quite the opposite.
So not even animals. Animals were to be protected in a war. So, sometimes you wonder if any of this war, the soldiers are patriotic. They're doing their duty, but are any of these wars even can be considered dharmic? Any of the wars. Yes, the soldier is giving his life. That's great. He's giving his life. There is some spirit of sacrifice there, some spirit of yajna, that he's signing up for military and he's going and he's fighting. That's glorious. But this whole idea of modern warfare can even be considered anywhere, dharmic, anywhere according to any principle is questioned. Then he says well-wishers. Then he says friends or parents. Friends and parents came after children and Brahmanas. Preceptors and his own brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me, this sin. Arjuna's main overriding consideration in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is sin. What will happen? Women will be polluted, family will be degraded. Who would offer ablution to the ancestors? Who will take care of them? As a statesman, as a politician, as a warrior, his main concern was what will happen to the woman, the chastity, what will happen to the tradition, what will happen to the family and community welfare projects. This is a leader. He's worried about the welfare of community and family. He's concerned about the tradition of offering pinda to the ancestors. How will the ancestors be delivered if all the men are killed? What will happen to the unprotected women who will definitely be drawn into unchastity? And that will give rise to unwanted population. Varna Shankara. You cannot practice dharma if the progeny is degraded and mixed. Your kind of souls you're attracting in your womb. The lack of chastity in women will give rise to Varna Shankara. If Varna Shankara is there, if polluted, mixed souls are attracted in the womb, that will lead to chaos on the level of society. So here Yudhishthira is also speaking the same ideas. There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizen. But alas, this injunction is not applicable to me. I have killed many friends of women and I have caused enmity to such an extent. Material welfare work. As it is muddy water through mud or purify a wine with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals. And of course, Prabhupada explains the whole idea of sacrifice. So now, what is Yudhishthira Maharaj displaying here? He is displaying the first and foremost quality of a devotee, which is called, I will not give it to you, I'll ask you. Would you consider a devotee who chants a certain number of rounds a devotee, or who gives in charity a devotee, or who follows some principles a devotee? Or would you consider this person who has this one quality, which is called character? Devotee means character. Devotional service, over and above everything, means personal development of character. Character means the force of your being should affect others. Your virtue, your presence, your integrity, the totality of your being. If somebody meets you, he should not be able to forget that. And without character, there's nothing. There's nothing. So above all, one has to develop character. Character incorporates several things. If you look at all of the divine qualities Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of that is character. Begins with honesty, begins with virtue, begins with humility, tolerance, etiquette, compassion, equanimity. But character is what gives force. The sun rises, the moon is there because of character. If you look at people who are godly, truly godly, one thing you will find is character which has so much force in it. Materially, they may have nothing, but just little things of their behavior can imprint impressions in your consciousness for the rest of your life, which you cannot forget. Sometimes you see a hard-working mother taking care of her child, and you see her character. You see somebody washing the pots, or scrubbing the floor, or cooking for the deity, or offering puja, and you see their character. There is a force in it. Whereas you see others who don't have character, and other qualities are just superficial. So above all, develop virtue, develop character. That character should be pure, like Ganges. Now, Prabhupada said, you will recognize a devotee as a perfect gentleman. If that is not there, then nothing is there. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is displaying exemplary character here. Exemplary character. As the son of Dharma, as Dharma personified, he is displaying virtue here. Nobody in this material world accepts their mistake or accepts their fault. Oh, I didn't do anything. Oh, he was wrong. Oh, I mean, come on. This totally caught me off guard. If Bhaktivedanta Swami said, if there is a problem between two people, even if you're right, if you focus on other person's mistake, it's only going to aggravate the problem. The best thing is, let's say Hari says something to Aiden. The best thing is, even if Hari is 99% wrong, for Aiden to recognize what is there in that 1% which I can fix. That is intelligence. In any difficulty, in any correction, in anything in which you are told that you are wrong and you need to do something, it's not sign of intelligence to say, no, what did I do? What did I do? I didn't do anything. They're racist, they're discriminatory. Come on, just calm down. You go back, you take your mind, you find out what is that one lesson which can be learned, which you can apply in your life. And forget, and even if they are majorly wrong, even if there was some breach of ethics or etiquette or whatever it was, maybe there was something for you to learn there. And even if there is nothing for you to learn, Krishna is teaching you humility and tolerance through all of that. So what is for me to learn in this situation is the real question. How is this contributing to my growth? Krishna's mercy comes through unpalatable situations in life. You never learn anything from success. And you will never learn anything from those who will glorify you. You will learn tremendously about yourself, your depth of your character, your nature, your virtues, when you are faced with difficulty, failure, criticism. When you are faced with a difficult situation in life, that's the time for growth. That's the time to really test the mettle. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked Krishna, what are the symptoms by which one who has transcended the modes of material nature is to be known? Chapter 14. And Krishna says, one who's same in honor and dishonor. One who's same in pleasure and pain. One who sees gold and stone as equal. That person has transcended the modes of material nature. He's gunatita. He's beyond the modes of nature. So how will I know whether my mantras or my seva is being accepted by Krishna? Krishna will send purification after purification. Those who are loved by God, they will find thorns in their path. They will find difficulties in their path. And the difficulty can be compounded by how you react to it. What happens to you is your karma, but how you respond and react is your free will. So if you can respond and react in a godly way, in a way which is pleasing to Krishna, then you have nullified that karma. And that test is over. Otherwise, that same test will come repeatedly. If you fail the test, then 20 years from now, the same test will come. You will not make advancement in those 20 years. The same challenge, the same test in some other milieu will come. Pass the test. So you can examine me. Here's an exam. Here's an opportunity. We just don't college to keep studying. We want to take an exam so we can move forward. So we can graduate, right? So a test comes, a challenge comes. How do I react and respond to the entirety of that situation is my test. And maybe I may not get 100%, but you don't need 100% to pass. Maybe I may go through my grief and anger and upset, but if I can immediately elevate myself to a higher platform, pass the test, move forward, respond to that situation in a godly way, then I move forward. Otherwise, I'm stuck. Then I'm stuck for years to come, for lifetimes to come. Some anarthas can be lifetimes. Anarthas of fault finding, criticizing, Anarthas of I am right. This I am right comes from a mentality of defending. I'm defending myself. I am right, you are wrong. I really didn't do anything. Or maybe 50-50. Or maybe it's 51 you are and 49 me. But it's all defending. It's as primeval as eating, meeting and sleeping. It's as primeval. The environment is wrong, society is wrong, GBC is wrong, Guru is wrong, devotees are fools and rascals, but I am right. I am correct. My interpretation of the situation, my analysis of the situation, that everybody is a fool and rascal, and I am transcendental to this whole environment. The ultimate conclusion is that everybody is a fool and rascal, and I am transcendental to this environment. I am above all of this. This is too low for me. I am not going to come here. I'm not going to associate. Because everybody is a fool and rascal. This is Maya. Maya doing your kachumbar. And then they go on the internet and write a big blurb about things. Did they write how many times they broke the regulative principles? Do they write how much envy and anger and lust and pride and greed and stupidity and foolishness is in your heart? Does anybody write on the internet about that? Does anybody write how many regulative principles they've broken? Nobody writes. I don't see anything to that effect. That here, I am so and so, and this is exactly what goes in my mind from 5 in the morning till midnight. Let me do a live broadcast of what happens in my mind.
Facebook Live.
But they'll take a picture and they'll show to the whole world how happy I am. Illusion. Or they will write their thoughts or their interpretation of reality. And they will try to convince the world that their interpretation of reality is true. And some foolish people who are of the same wavelength and same consciousness buy into it. Oh yes, because they're also crows looking for shit. So they're going to buy into it. They're going to enjoy it. Because how? They're not enjoying Krishna Katha for sure. They're not reading books for sure. They're not crying tears for sure. It is said in the Vedas that when you chant Hare Krishna, if tears do not come out of your eyes and your bodily hair do not stand on end and you don't feel ecstasy, then you should know that your heart is steel framed. So is that happening to you? And if it's not happening to you, then what is the point about criticizing the whole damn world? In that case, you can simply be humble. You can simply be humble. You can calm down a little bit, do some seva, do some service, and hope for some purification in some other lifetime. That's the best you really can do. You can be a positive source of service. You can be humble. You can recriminate yourself, reproach yourself. Feel guilty to the point that it will inspire you to do something for service of Krishna. Pass maybe some of the lower tests which Krishna is giving you. The deepest anarthas don't go away right away. But everybody can pass some test. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all failure. Even if I may be a failure on certain extent, I can still do something good. And that is Krishna consciousness. And that is accepted. That is when Krishna says, even if someone renders me some service, I'll accept it. So even if I cannot be a Paramatma or a Mahatma or do everything right and check all the boxes, maybe I should try to look within myself, see what good I can do, how I can be a lamp in the darkness. What can I do? In my own darkness, where can I light a little lamp? Just do it gratefully, happily, humbly, and try to serve others. That is character, the beginning of character. Peter Barwash would say, one who blames others for his own difficulty has not even begun his spiritual life yet. Stop blaming others for your own problems. Yes, I know you are in distress. You are in pain. You are in grief. But to blame others or to point finger in others will not solve anything. You will have to start and kind of deep dive and see, how did I ended up in this dark blind well full of snakes? How did I ended up here? And that may give some clarity. That may give some reality. Just like anger is real, lust is real, illusion is real. Illusion means what is not. Just like I feel lust and anger and pride every day, and I can see it in my consciousness, illusion is as much real as that. I live in a world of illusion, we live in a world of mirrors, in mirages. So if somebody corrected my illusion, or if somebody challenges my illusory version of myself, my illusory version of reality which I have believed for myself, every living entity believes that he's the greatest person on earth. That is called the God complex. That is why people like to be appreciated. You know this need for appreciation, where it comes from? It reaffirms our illusion that I'm God. So motivational speakers will tell you how you appreciate others. The entire genre of motivational speaking is about that. How to win friends, how to influence people, how to be nice to them. But a devotee, real intelligent person, understand, my God, I'm stuck in a bag of stool. I'm stuck. And I'm stuck horribly. And I'm stuck miserably. And I cannot move heavens and earth to get out of it. I need mercy of the Lord, and I need mercy of the Guru, and I need some chastisement from somebody so I can be put back in my own place. Devotional service means voluntarily accepting to be put back in your own place. And when that opportunity comes through the medium of somebody else, then it's the mercy of God. In general, even a guru would appreciate. Why? Because he knows that the disciple is not ready for correction. So he has no choice. So he has no choice. So he says, yes, I'm very pleased by your service. Hare Krishna. And then he moves on, he goes to another temple. And then he says, yes, I'm very pleased by your service.
They won't be able to follow.
Yeah, because if he corrects, then they may leave. Because if I tell you the truth, I will destroy this illusion. So illusion reigns supreme. Lust, anger is nothing, but total divorce from reality reigns supreme in this world. There's layers and layers and layers of illusion, smoke screen after smoke screen, mirrors after mirrors, total denial of reality. You know, this book called Denial of Death. You know, this whole thing is about illusion. It's a total illusion that you know I'm something. And to fight about it and to actually reinforce that I'm right. This I am right is the biggest illusion. At least a nominally sane person will acknowledge that he could be wrong. Yes, there may be some good things others have to offer. There may be some good points others may say. Let me listen to it. Let me find out what good is there in that. You know, Yudhishthira Maharaj is feeling bad. He's feeling guilty for what happened. You know, and nothing is able to pacify his heart. Because he's wondering if all what was done was even necessary. A nominally sane person will always give a second thought to his beliefs and actions. A nominally sane person, not fully sane. A nominally sane person would take advice and influence from others. A nominally sane person may think if somebody is saying, Prabhuji, there is a problem, that there must be some problem. Find out what that 1% is and let me work on it. You know? And until and unless I'm fully transcendental to the modes of material nature, until and unless I'm fully transcendental to the 6 enemies, and I'm really on Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, text 16 to 21, who am I really? Nobody. I'm nothing. I'm a puppet in the hands of Maya. Small puppet, infinitesimal. So let me be grateful. Let me be grateful for the glory of God. He gave me the sunshine and moonshine and water to drink and devotees, and something is there. Let me be grateful. Let me be humble. Let me do something. Let me be nominally sane. Let me break my own illusions. Let me pass the test. Be thoughtful and a man of character and virtue. So those are the thoughts which came to by listening to Yudhishthira Maharaj's Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Any questions? Thoughts?
Can I ask a question? Is it okay?
Yeah, Param, please give some comments.
Reflections and thoughts, Prabhu. You can also correct me, please. The point that you made that how it is difficult to change ourselves, but think ourselves correct, and how Guru has to adjust the mode of his speaking just to satisfy our needs. I just want to add one more thing there. The devotee not might leave the temple also, but he might leave the Guru also. It happens that if a Guru doesn't satisfy his need, that he doesn't manipulate the words according to his requirement, and he just push the Guru out of his life. Prabhu, I want to ask you a question now. That when you're talking about reflection inside, and when the correction is coming to us, how we can understand this correction is good for me, rather than retaliating to the correction or reciprocating the correction in a bad way. For example, somebody is correcting me, somebody is helping me to get out of my own curry, like a cat sitting on a couch, and you move the cat will scream. So how do we stop screaming and understand that this is, could be the person speaking because he want to lord it over me, or he want to be superior to me, or he want to be better than me. How can I understand that this person is really helping me rather than trying to show he's better than me or trying to lord it over me? And how can I stop screaming at the person that, hey, I don't want to hear you?
Right, so Param, I'll just talk about some practical life experience. I may not be in a position to answer the question, but I'll share with you what I would do. When I'm in a situation like that, initial reaction may be whatever my initial reaction in my mind is. But I take time out, and when I chant Hare Krishna, then Krishna gives me this insight. Let me just figure out what is the grain of truth in whatever happened, what is there for me to learn. Maybe remove myself from the situation a little bit. Just figure out his problems, the person who's giving the feedback or whatever it is, are there. Okay. So intelligent discrimination, okay, a little bit I can try to separate the wheat from the chaff. But then the real question is, what can I learn? How can I improve? What is the grain of truth in this? And then there is one more element. Intelligence, mental speculation, and human understanding can only go so far. Surrender to Krishna, that Krishna, how is this my karma coming to me? How can this situation be transformative to bring me to a higher level of existence? And how is your mercy coming through this? You help me understand. And that requires surrender to the holy name. So in every situation, but ultimately with your emotion, with your intellect, with your intelligence, you can figure out certain things, right? But then, how's this situation going to be resolved? How can I serve that person whom I just offended? How can this situation be transformed in a way which is Krishna conscious? That will happen by Krishna's mercy only. I cannot do it, right, Param Prabhu?
Yes.
I cannot change that person. I cannot. It's not in my power. I cannot change the environment or the situation. But Krishna can. But Krishna can. Krishna can also give insight and feedback in his own heart. Krishna can change the environment. Krishna can change the situation. How can this be transformed into a Krishna conscious environment pleasing to you? That is the real thing. The real thing is not what he said or how I feel about it. The real thing is, how is this eventually going to elevate us to bring pleasure to you?
Sure.
That is the question. And that only holy name can, and your sense of surrender to the environment and situation. Let me not retaliate. But if I retaliate, or I tell everybody in the community that this person, just be careful with him, then that mercy will not come. Then Krishna will say, okay, well, you did your part. You don't need me.
I don't need to go.
Yeah, you are already handling it.
You got it.
You got it. Then I'll just stay in the background.
Eat some popcorn.
Yeah, fine.
You're fine.
Yes.
So Krishna will then stay in the background. But if you want Krishna to work, then we have to control our passion and then surrender in that moment. That Krishna, you will have to do something. And in every situation, if you just wait for Krishna to do something, let him do at least something. You will obviously do something. Because until we are Paramahamsas, we will not stop. But okay, I have done enough. I think I have raised enough hell. Now let me just step back and let's just give this a week or two of chanting and see what happens then. And Krishna comes through. But this is something which can only be realized when you allow Krishna to do something. If you do everything, you will never realize that. It's a realization. It happens in very subtle ways. It happens in the level of consciousness, your attitude, how you feel about situation, other person's heart. It happens in very subtle ways. These proddings from Paramatma are subtle indeed. In the 14th chapter in the 15th chapter in 13th chapter of Gita, there is a very beautiful, Hari, can you give me this verse? And I want to explain this point about Paramatma and how he works.
1323.
1323, okay. Thank you, it's 13th chapter. And this may be very instructive, devotees, in some ways. Yes. So here, in 1323, Krishna says that I am there as Paramatma in your heart, but then he qualifies it. He's there as Paramatma in everybody's heart. First he says, Upadrishta. First word is Upadrishta, I'll explain. Second is Anumanta. Third is Bharta. Fourth is Bhokta. Fifth is Maheshwar. Sixth is Paramatma. So let's look at this. Upadrashta means overseer. Two birds sitting. If you don't have sadhana, if you don't want Krishna to act, then he will live as an overseer. He's there. Overseer. He's not doing anything. First level of realization through Paramatma. Two birds sitting on a tree, one is enjoying the fruit, other one is, witnessing. He's a witness, overseer. First. The second one is Anumanta or permitter. I begin to establish some connection with Paramatma through sadhana. But I still have material desires. I still have my own ways of thinking. This time, he's going to be a little bit more than overseer, and he would permit certain things to a certain extent. And then he would teach you a lesson. So, permitter. He takes more interest in your life. The third, bharta, master. Now, I am his servant, you are my master, please help. He will act at the level of master. Fourth, bhokta, supreme enjoyer. Master is there, but now since he's the supreme enjoyer, I have given my enjoyment to Krishna. Krishna, you are the supreme enjoyer. That's my relationship with him. Krishna will act in a more deeper way in my life. And finally, Maha Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, and Paramatma, the Super Soul. To advanced devotees, the difference between a person who's a neophyte and an advanced devotee, for an advanced devotee, Krishna acts as Maha Ishvara and Paramatma. He guides. He takes charge of his life. He takes care of the environment for an advanced devotee. And for a neophyte devotee, he's an overseer and permitter. Okay. Since you don't want me, I will remain in the background. Param. So, Param, ultimately we have to come in that test to the platform of Bhokta and Maha Ishvara. That you are the enjoyer, I am not. So what happens to me or how I feel about the situation is not important, but how this situation can bring pleasure to you. If I ask that question, then Krishna will respond. Anything which happens in life, one can go from just letting God be our permitter and overseer to letting God be the enjoyer and mass Ishvara of the situation, controller of the situation. Let you control. Okay, let me see what happens. I may have to act in certain ways. Krishna will give me instruction and advice, Krishna will give me guidance and advice. But generally, advanced devotees, no resistance. They act on platform of humility, Lord, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. Just forgive them. So, that's the vision of a pure devotee.
Thank you for writing that.
But you already answered 1323. Charitable.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the concept of the Christians in terms of mercy. That one have to depend on the mercy of the Lord. No question of putting effort. Actually, that is only the modern Christians, also the Pentecostals. In Christianity, there is understanding also in terms of what Paul says. He said, must we remain in sin and grace abounds? He said, God forbid. In the sense, he was explaining that even though the grace of God is there, they don't have to remain in sin, continue to do the old things, and not making efforts to overcome the sinful activities or sinful habits or to do the right things. In other words, they also recognize both work and the grace of God. But the modern Christians have a lot of misunderstanding, and they try to portray just one aspect for their own purpose, for their own purposeness. So, in our own culture, we're talking about that Krishna is a property of the pure devotees, and is a pure devotee that gives Krishna to us. So, what are the things? And of course, the pure devotee or a spiritual master, he has equal love for his disciples. When he takes a disciple, he is ready to bestow his mercy on the disciple. What is the criteria for the spiritual master to give one the mercy to Krishna and not to the other person, other disciple? What is the responsibility?
What is the criteria? Chanka Prabhu, you speak something. So, you know, ultimately it is the real bhav and the sincerity of the person. You know, Krishna says, I am equal to all. But one who's my devotee, I take special care of him, right? That is our understanding through Bhagavad Gita. He says, I'm equal to all. But one who's a friend in me, you know, I'm a friend to him. The spiritual master also sees everything equally. He sees everything equally. One who really understands his heart and pleases him. I'm a person, you know, I'm a person, and I would be nice and kind to everybody. And this is how I understand the situation. But even within, like, you know, looking at my own God family, I can see, you know, that the pure devotee of the Lord is equal to everybody, just like Krishna is. But one who sincerely tries to serve him, fulfill his innermost desires, fulfill his innermost ambition. Like we say for Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, the innermost desire of the heart of Lord Chaitanya. He becomes qualified. And that is parampara in some ways. You know, the parampara is the guru and his true disciple. That is parampara. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Srila Prabhupada, and others who really, really inspire. And if you look at Prabhupada's, you know, there are those handful, you know, who can be considered as they really give everything to serve Prabhupada. And that is parampara. Parampara is the guru giving the entire power of attorney, his shakti, his strength, his mercy, his entirety of his being to the disciple. The disciple conveys that, he radiates that, he emanates that. Right? Is it making sense? Yes. You know, that power of attorney, which is called parampara. That parampara, that power of attorney Guru gives, it is not even a contract, it's not a written contract, it's not a verbal contract, but you can see it, you can feel it, isn't it? When you see the full, what is called as the plenary influence of Guru manifesting in the body of the disciple, you can see it. But at the same time, Guru is kind and merciful, just like Krishna, to everybody and equal to all.
Hare Krishna. Such an excellent association, excellent discussion. Thank you. I really enjoyed, I wanted to just make a quick comment on character. I really enjoyed that you talked about how important character is, and I kind of wanted to elaborate. It might be a little bit of a crude example, so please correct me if it doesn't necessarily align. But growing up, I played a lot of really competitive lacrosse, and you know, you would go and you would travel the country and you'd play in front of a bunch of different coaches. And one thing my coach always told me that helped me a lot, because you're trying to get recruited, you want to play in college, you know, and it can kind of be similar to us wanting to go serve Krishna, or if our desire is to be in the spiritual world, or even higher, just eternally serve Krishna. Character, my coach would always tell me, is what you do when no one's looking. And so kind of like aligning your private life and your public life as much as possible. You know, Bhakti Swami talked about that a lot. Like aligning your private and public life together a lot. And I just have always kept that with me, because sometimes I'll find myself, I have to catch myself, you know, like, am I really doing this out of sheer need to help Krishna, or am I doing it for others to approve me? So, you know, if no one's here and I'm walking out the door and there's trash that's full, am I taking it out? You know, it's things like that that I have always found so important and trying so hard to work on, you know, but I find that so important, that character is what you're doing when no one is looking. Because coaches, they'll see a kid, I'm going to bring it back to lacrosse here, they'll see a kid, he's a great player on the field, he does a lot of great stuff, and they're like, oh, I'm interested. And then he's walking off the field and he makes his mom take his bag for him. Or he drops trash on the ground, and the coaches say, oh, I don't want him anymore. So it's not necessarily about what you're doing on the field in bhakti, but also what you're doing when no one's looking. What you're doing when, no one is paying attention to you, or you think no one's paying attention to you. There's this psychology term called the Hawthorne effect. And it's how the observer and you feeling observed affects your behavior. So imagine if we always understood that Krishna is always with us and seeing what we're doing, and how that can affect our behavior, instead of what we want other people to view us as. Because that's something I have to work on, worrying about other people's thoughts of me. Or, it's important to please devotees, but at the end, it's what's most pleasing to Krishna. And I've always found that so helpful through my path in trying to correct that. So thank you so much for touching on that idea of character.
Beautiful. So many wonderful points. That's the whole secret of character or bhakti, It's definitely a steep climb. Any other thoughts, Sunny? Please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a beautiful and instructive class. You made a great point in the beginning about a Brahman and a Kshatriya getting the same destination, right? A Brahman who is self-realized and a Kshatriya who dies on the battlefield. So somewhere in the Vedic lifestyle, like you said, the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas were kind of treated equally, and they were given the same destination if they're performing their duties. So I'm just trying to relate it with the latest turn of events, where we see some devotees and temples attacked in one part of the world, right? And then as a reaction, we are hearing that devotees are saying that that Shastra and Shastras are both important. The Brahmins and the Kshatriyas are both important.
Absolutely.
Right? So to kind of align with what you said. And then there's another group of devotees who are saying, again, I'm just trying to reconcile. So they're saying, our society is, primarily entrusted with producing Brahmanas and not so much Kshatriyas. So there are organizations who are who are so specialized in those things. So we can actually partner with them and work with them to kind of deal with the situation. How should we reconcile this? Especially because it's a practical situation for us. We are also part of a temple, and whatever something like that happens, how should we prepare ourselves, and which side should we take? Sorry, kind of deviating from the conversation that we had, but that's what I was thinking about when you mentioned that. Could you throw some light on the subject?
So, Akshay Krishna, what specifically you would like me to comment upon?
Like which two part of these two different ideologies? What do you think? What would be your take on that?
Akshay Krishna, I'll tell you one thing, which is more overarching than this question you just asked. What Prabhupada did was so revolutionary and he had such limited time that he did not have time to give detailed instructions on Varnashram.
Yeah, sorry, that's the point you were trying to come to, the Varnashram part, so I was trying to ask that.
We lack, ISKCON in general lack in our understanding of Varnashram. And we have made unknowingly a lot of mistakes because of that. At one point, Srila Prabhupada was giving Brahmanical initiation to everybody. And then Srila Prabhupada confided in the last years of his life to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, now we'll implement Varnashram. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Prabhupada, how will you implement Varnashram? You give Brahmanical initiation to everybody. And Srila Prabhupada said, I am giving Brahmanical initiation, but then why are they falling down? So even Prabhupada realized much later that this is not going to work, what he was doing. And Prabhupada was intelligent to change the course right away. For us, Prabhupada did not do it. But Prabhupada said, I will give to Gita Nagari, I will sit down and I will teach people how to implement the Varnashram. ISKCON, as it grows, as it organically and naturally grows, Akshay Krishna Prabhu, you will see one thing. Whenever there's a system, and there is something wrong in the system, either through a process of internal correction or through a process of external correction, the system will come to an ideal state. Either through a series and sequence of internal corrections or violent external corrections, which could be Caesar-like and seismic, this organism will have to come to an ideal state, otherwise it will die. This is a rule of the universe. It applies to microcosm and macrocosm. If there is too much industrial revolution, there will be global warming and the whole thing will go to hell. If individual has certain issues or problems, he will either have to internally correct himself, or there will be an external correction, or he will go into, degrade into anarchy, chaos and death. Okay? He'll become an alcoholic and he'll become a drug addict if he doesn't correct himself. If there is a family and there is a problem, let's say the father is a problem, either he has to correct himself or there will be external corrections, and if both doesn't happen, then the family will disintegrate and come to a lower level. So let's say ISKCON has to develop and ISKCON has to come to an ideal state. ISKCON will have to complete the remaining 50% of Prabhupada's mission of Varnashram. Otherwise, what happened in Bangladesh will happen repeatedly. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution says that the freedom to bear arms will never be infringed upon. And the Vedic society was heavily militarized. A man or a woman will have to show some skills, horse riding, archery, martial arts, mace fighting, before they can graduate from high school. But somewhere down the line, we lost it. When Muslims occupied India, they demilitarized the society, because there were a handful of Turks and Pathans ruling the whole country. So Varnashram, ISKCON has to work. See, for example, Akshay Krishna Prabhu, 25 years ago, if you were to join ISKCON, all of us would be brahmacharis. All of us would be shaved up wearing saffron. It took about, Prabhupada left in 77, it took them 50 years to understand that there is a time period for education and training, and that ashram can be for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, and after that everybody should get married. Most of them, unless you really want to be a celibate monk. That took about 50 years to understand. The care of children, care of women, care of families, parents, elders, they were all considered as by well-meaning, well-intentioned devotees, they were considered as burdens. Education. Where was education? Education. Even after 50 years, we have maybe 2 schools or 3 schools in North America. Dallas, Alachua, maybe another one, I don't think so. Houston has a school.
In Canada, one.
Huh?
In Canada, one.
Canada, 1 school. Our movement is for education and training. Where are the schools? Child protection, women protection, ethical behavior, we are talking now. So we are developing Akshay Krishna. You will see next 50 years, there will be Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras and everybody working together, everybody attain the same destination. Nobody is different. Just because I have a different nature and I have a gun and I'm protecting the temple, my service is equally as important as a person who does the service of strictly Brahminical duties. And we have to understand that Varnashram has to be Daivi Varnashram. Equality, the difference is from transcendental to temporal. The difference is transcendental to temporal, but both are important. transcendence and temporality are both important. So I think ISKCON, I believe, truly believe, that has a lot of room to grow, to develop, or if it doesn't, through a series of internal corrections and difficulties and challenges, or through external corrections like this one. The organism will come to an ideal state, or it will wither, decay, and decline. This is a principle, this is a universal rule. Nobody can change that. Meanwhile, we will have to partner. For example, in Indian Army, it is a known fact that 40 to 50% of Indian Army leaders are Sikhs. Sardarji. And if you look at the number of soldiers who die on the battlefield in Kashmir or Rajasthan or China border, half of them are Sikhs. Because they are Kshatriyas. They are the ones who are protecting India from the time of Aurangzeb. Guru Nanak Ji started a religious movement, Brahmanical movement. After 7 or 8 generations, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, to hell with this Brahmanism, who's going to kill himself for me, come forward. And those are my disciples. He changed it. Guru Gobind Singh Ji changed it. He said, we will fight. They were Kshatriyas. And Sikhism exploded. By the time Ranjit Singh took over Punjab, the entire Punjab was Sikh. It was Sikhs and Marathas who preserved the Vedic culture. It was Subhash Chandra Bose, these idiots, Gandhi and Nehru, they are the reason why we have Bangladesh and Pakistan. Idiots. Absolute idiots. Absolute idiots. I was taught that Nathuram Godse killed Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
But I was never taught why he killed Mahatma Gandhi. When I learned why he killed, I'm like, why didn't he do it 10 years ago? He should have pumped at least 20 bullets in his head 20 years before. There would have been no Pakistan or Bangladesh. And there would have no been this problem. I can go on record on saying Islam can only survive when they're in minority. As soon as they attain majority, there will be violation of human rights for everybody else. You can call it extremism, fundamentalism, some people, but there will be violation of human rights for everybody else. Nobody can survive. You can see the 1500-year history of this religion. 1500 years, whether it's Sudan, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Bangladesh, as long as they are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%, it's okay. Anything more than that, only time is separating them from total anarchy and chaos and destruction and death and murder. They are only peaceful. Their Brahmanas, their so-called peaceful Islam only exist as long as they are 10, 15%. It's 1500 years of history. And after killing everybody else, they would fight with each other until they would kill each other. So when you have Afghanistan and Pakistan, they just fight with one another. Sunnis, Shias, Ahmadiyas, Wahhabis, blah, blah, blah. And even if they're not killing for any other religion reason, they would just kill because they're animals. Because they're animals. They would kill. Murder. Blood. That is the fact. You can look at last 1500 years of history. Except for 1 or 2 countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, you would not find a country where you have a majority of that faith and there is no human right violation. You talk to Kurds, you talk to Sudan, you talk to Nigeria, you talk any country in the world, Pakistan, India, Kashmir. Even now they're killing in Kashmir. Even today they're killing in Kashmir. They would not allow workers from another faith to come and work in that state, it's Indian state. I don't know why Malaysia and Indonesia is peaceful still. Actually, it baffles me. I fail to understand, maybe somebody can explain it to me. There is a huge cultural barriers there, and they have worked very hard to fight and preserve it like that. But human rights violation will happen. So, Radhanath Swami, when Kargil war happened and Pakistan attacked India, this question was asked. Half of the people who were martyred on the border were Sikhs. This question was asked to Radhanath Swami, and Radhanath Swami said that these are aggressors. This is clear aggression. And anybody who's fighting to preserve India, this is holy war. This is defense. Otherwise, none of us can survive. You either have two choices then. You have to convert to that faith, and you cannot then leave that faith. And you cannot even have an intellectual debate, discussion, and argument, because if you say anything, they'll kill you. And you cannot leave that faith. So there is no room for constructive dialogue. There is no room for intelligence. They have certain laws and certain fundamental parameters they want to live by. It's geopolitical aggression. It's domination. It's absolute domination. Otherwise, it's death. It's domination or death. They will dominate your culture, your life, your body, your woman, your beliefs. It's political aggression in the name of religion. That is what it is.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. There's a follow-up request. Maybe.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's 9:30.
No, I'm just not asking a question. I'm just making a small request. So maybe one of those weeks when you have time, can we have a class on this Varnashram system that you were talking about? The future.
But
of
I
ISKCON.
may be kicked out of ISKCON.
Hare Krishna, it's 9:30, it's breakfast time. We'll continue the conversation there.
No, just kind of-
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Bol.
This is Prema ki
Jai. Devotees, I'm sorry, I could be wrong also about the last 10 minutes. And other people have different
Everything
opinions.
was not Prabhu except politics.
Why do we politics over here?